You're listening to the PropTech Pioneers podcast. This podcast brings startups and MLSs closer together by exploring the beauty and the struggle of real estate data and technology. I believe real estate is on the cusp of a major transformation driven by better access to data, a new crop of pragmatic founders, and pent-up frustration with the status quo. These are conversations with those pioneers that are leading that transformation within the MLS landscape. I'm your host, Evan Knowles. I'm an entrepreneur building a fintech company called Simba that helps realtors manage their financial health using MLS data. And I wish I had access to these conversations earlier in my journey. So I thought I'd help future entrepreneurs and MLS executives learn from each other in a more open and accessible fashion. I hope you enjoy. Now let's jump into it. All right, I'm here with Sara Fogg. Thanks so much for joining. I'll tee you up real quick and then we'll jump into the conversation here. So you and I met through Bill Fowler as part of his innovator network through the MLSs. I think you were the first person to reach out to me after that call. And since then, I think we've developed a great relationship. The way I'd like to describe you, and this is kind of the first story, was when I walked into RESO. I walked straight into a networking event. It was open bar, the first event, and I was all alone. I was the only person from my team there at RESO, and I was walking through a bunch of people I did not know. And I went straight to the bar, and as I was getting my drink, I heard someone yell my name, and it was you. And we hadn't even met in person yet. And so that made me comfortable. I think that's one of the things you're great at, is being a cheerleader, making people comfortable and welcome. And I really appreciated that. And so that was one of my first memories of Sara, and I'm looking forward to speaking with her today and getting some knowledge from her. So appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, it was a lot of fun that way because of COVID, we had to do so much with Zoom that we didn't get to meet people in person. And that RESO event was like only the second event back that we were in person. So no, it was
Yeah.
great, and it was a lot of fun.
Yep. No, RESO was a great experience for me. I'm not a technical founder, but I love technology, and I'm definitely a nerd. And so RESO is a little bit of a nerdier conference where there's a lot of technology being talked about. It's very tight knit, and I love that. And I think that the atmosphere is amazing.
And I think it goes both ways because it even works for the non-technical people because they break it down enough that you can understand it.
Exactly.
And to me, RESO, when it comes to tech startups like yours, different ones like that, RESO is the first conference that I would ever recommend people going to because it is a smaller group of people. So you get the opportunity to meet more and get those relationships start building.
Yeah. And that was my exact experience. So you're hitting the nail on the head there. Let's get quickly into your background as kind of the first thing to knock off the list here. Give us an introduction of yourself and how you got into the industry.
By accident?
Yeah.
Let's see, my background, I'm an Army vet. I worked in the printing industry for years. I was a quality assurance tech in the civilian world and had a family emergency. I had to go out to California and take care of my mom for a year, and they couldn't hold my job. So when I came back, Niren at the time actually was looking for a customer service rep. And there were 5 of us, and I was told, there's no room for growth. There's no way we can promote anybody above that. We now have 16 people. And I was able to move into a role as a director of product and implementation. And I've been here 17 years. So it's been a great company. We just rebranded this week to Prime MLS, which was exciting for us. And yeah, that's kind of how I stumbled into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll have to dig into that rebrand here in a bit, but also thanks for your service in the Army. What were you doing in the Army?
I was in aviation, so I was in flight ops.
Very cool.
So a lot of
Did you
scheduling,
get to
and
travel?
I did get to do a little traveling. Well, I'm from a really small town in Northern California. The last little bump before Oregon, redwoods to the ocean. It's gorgeous, but industry-wise, nothing. But I ended up getting stationed in Chicago. I was stationed over in Germany. Alabama was my favorite. I love the South.
Yeah. Well, Bill Fowler would appreciate that. Uh, and now you jump back and forth between Tennessee, right? Which is close
I
to where we are in Kentucky.
absolutely. In fact, I leave Saturday for Nashville. I am because again of COVID. In some ways, it was helpful for me because it allowed us to move into a remote environment, and I was able to prove that I can manage my team remotely. And yeah, so I do pretty much a month in New Hampshire and a month in Nashville. My husband's down there full time. The kids and the grandbabies are up here, so got to split the time.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the new reality. Remote work is definitely, or at least hybrid work is definitely the future. Walk us through a day in the life of being the director of product implementation. What goes into that? Every MLS executive or association exec I talk to, they've got just these wild resumes and things that they're responsible for. So I'm curious to hear what yours is.
Oh boy. So I run a team of four, two that are primarily focused on the data side of the house. Um, One specifically does like all of our audits of all the websites. Every single IDX site and syndication site is audited every single year. They're on a cadence. So she literally goes through them all. Um, I'm responsible for, we have not just one, but two public facing websites. And then the advertising that goes into that, uh, MLS software, public records, pretty much any third-party integration as we worked with Simba, bringing new products on board, demos. I had two demos today. Um, Looking for new technology, looking to see what's on the edge, what's out there. Um, yeah, all of that sort of comes into play in my world. As well
Yeah.
as I'm also our board of directors liaison, so I handle that side of the house as well. So I stay busy.
Cool. Well, we'll dig into each of those individual parts here. Talk about, before we do that, what makes now Prime MLS unique. And let's get into the rebrand off of this, but go into kind of, your region and that you cover and what makes you all unique.
So we were the first MLS in the country to cover two entire states. That was back in 2010 when we acquired the Vermont MLS. I guess I should say that I'm in New Hampshire. Um, we covered all of New Hampshire, all of Vermont. We also have two shareholder boards out down in Massachusetts. We got about 10% of our membership that we cross over with down with Mass. Members in Maine, we accept listings and membership from Connecticut, Rhode Island, and now New York. So we've transitioned from back when I started in 2006, we were the Northern New England Real Estate Network. When we started adding Mass and started adding the option for the other states, we ended up rebranding to the New England Real Estate Network, or NERN as we're affectionately known in the industry. This week we rebranded to Prime. New York is not New England. They will tell you, and New Englanders will tell you that the New Yorkers are not New England. So we needed to make a little bit of a shift there, and it also took the geographic portion out of our name and out of our brand so that who knows, there could be an MLS or an association out in Idaho or, somewhere out that wants to turn around and then partner with us. They may not have the staff and we may be able to handle compliance or something like that for them. So it opens new avenues of growth.
Yeah, that's interesting. And do your members have to be realtors?
No, we actually accept non-realtors as well, but we're owned by 29 shareholder boards. Sorry, 25 shareholder boards with 29 shares. Sorry, my lights just went out.
Oh, no
Um,
worries.
so it's a little bit different, but we do
Yeah.
accept non-realtors. That is one thing
Yeah.
that hasn't changed.
Yeah, I remember when we were implementing with you all and starting to integrate, we came across that and had to figure out some solutions on how to support both realtors and non-realtors. So that I thought that was unique. Um, what goes into a rebrand? I mean, this seems like a pretty big process. Is it mostly on the marketing side, or is there way more than
Way more than that. I mean, this was a 2-year process. I mean, for part of it, you've got to get through your trademark and whether or not you can even use the name. And with Prime MLS, that could have been sketchy for us, but we made it through.
It's a great name.
Uh,
That's a
yes,
powerful name there.
I like
Yeah.
it. We're kind of happy. There's a lot that goes through on the integration side in the background between our MLS software vendor, our AMS provider is also our dashboard and single sign-on provider. So new single sign-ons had to be created. and for our public-facing website as well, because we SSO into the back door for the leads and analytics for our members. So all of that kind of had to coincide at the same time. And the marketing portion of it, thankfully, that is not on my side of the house. That goes to our director of marketing and education, Brianna Garrett, and she's just a rock star.
She is. We've been working with her, and she's great.
She's fantastic. And so once I got most of the implementation side out of the house, it then shifts over, and now she's really got to focus on the rest of it, thankfully.
Yeah,
it's a
you
lot.
mentioned. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a lot. And you mentioned that as part of your role, you're working with new technology vendors, vetting them, getting demos. I met you through, I think, a pretty privileged perspective through Bill's Innovation Network. Not every startup can go through that, and Bill, can't handle the capacity of the amount of startups that are coming into this space. So, what are some ways that you discover new technology, and what are some maybe preferred ways that you want technology companies to approach you?
I love the MLS Innovators Network. I think Bill tapped into something that we really need. Someone to really vet and work with people like he did with Simba to help with the pitches and the different thing like that. And granted, people you get 12 minutes to pitch your product, and you've got to do your best showing so that people want to learn more about it. And I think that's important. I get a lot of cold calls, a lot of emails that people will send, or they'll send
Does
them
that
to
work?
sometimes. Sometimes they'll send them to my CEO, and they'll turn around and go, okay, well, here's our director of product and implementation. She's the gatekeeper. Go talk to her. I have no qualms, looking at demos and seeing what people have and seeing if what they're offering is something that would fit into our schema. The other thing is peers. Finding out new products that are going in, whether it's, Matt Fowler at Triangle or Meg McFarland Megan out in New Mexico. Sometimes she'll see something and say, hey, have you seen this? What do you think? And we do the same thing. If I'm talking to somebody that says they've implemented with another MLS, 10 to 1 odds, I'm going to call that MLS and find out how it went. Were there any problems? Hindsight's 2020. If you knew now what you knew then, what would you do differently? That type of thing.
Yeah. And how do you measure success? So let's say you've onboarded a vendor. Actually, let's back up one question before that. How many vendors do you onboard a year on average, would you say?
It depends. I hate to give you that response, but it really depends on what's going on. Like right now, we've just had the rebrand go through. We've been working really hard on that. We had a strategic leadership retreat that we had to work through. So when things like that are big that are on our plates, we can't do as many demos or bring things on as well. But it could be 2, 3. It could be, I don't know if I've ever had no, I haven't had a year that I haven't done any. But it depends on what's going on in the market too, because, and it'll go into one of your other questions, so you'll ding me on this, but sometimes there's something going on in the industry that really captures your eye, but you know that there's going to be a cost to your members. And with the economy where it's at right now, you kind of have to measure that as well, because you don't want to put your members in a position that they can't afford it.
Yeah,
if you can help
for
it.
sure. That makes sense. And so when you do find one and you vet them and you want to implement that vendor, how do you measure success after that implementation?
Adoption is one of the big keys. Relevate, Mark Richburg, the CEO of that, he actually built in on our dashboard telemetry, click telemetry. So we have tiles on our dashboard set up, and I can go in and check the click-throughs on it, and not just total, but unique. So you can see there may have been, 1,000 people have logged in, but total logins are 4,000 because those people are going back. And you want to try and get probably 20% if you can. 20% is a great adoption rate. Kind of
Over what
sounds
period of
kind of
time?
crazy. I'd say over the first year, first 6 months to a
Okay.
year. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes you end up with partnerships that don't work. In most instances, or the instances I've experienced that in, has been when the partner has not engaged. They
Okay.
haven't done, webinars. They haven't done marketing. They just haven't engaged our members, and you have to engage them. Otherwise, they've got other tools they can use. And a lot of maybe it's franchise tools, maybe it's um, something that they've found on their own. But when the economy's like it is now, real estate agents want to sometimes look at their MLS or their association and say, okay, what are you offering me that I can use so I don't have to go out and find it on my own?
Yep. And when you work with a vendor, how do you structure agreements, or what are your preferred ways of actually building a partnership there as far as an agreement perspective?
Depends on the product. You're gonna shoot me for saying it depends a lot.
Well, no, that's fine.
Preferred, I personally, and the route over the past couple of few years that we've taken is more towards rev shares, where there's almost, I want to say, a freemium offering so that there's something that the members can utilize. They can go in and look at it, and then they're like, okay, wait, how else can I use this? And if they decide to upgrade, that's great. If they don't decide and they get use out of the freemium model, then they've told 10 other people, and maybe 5 of those upgrade. The other thing is it kind of holds the vendor's feet to the fire. I guess that may not be the best way to terminology to use, but if the vendor succeeds, we succeed. If we succeed, the vendor succeeds. So it becomes more symbiotic, and you work together more. In succeeding, training. The vendors that have had the most adoption and the best rate of return have been those that are doing webinars. They're getting with Brianna. They're getting on our training calendar, so they're getting out in front of our members. We market. I mean, we market all of it. We've got a rotation going through to make sure that all our partnerships that we're getting them out there.
Yeah,
But they got
we've
to do
been
their
doing
part.
webinars with y'all so far. I think we already have on the schedule 4, and we're getting good signups. I mean, we're doing webinars around financial health, taxes, and so those are kind of urgent needs right now in this season of the year. And so webinars have been big for us, even outside of the context of MLSs or associations, because they're just a great way to educate. And I think this industry there's plenty of webinars, and I think this industry has adopted them well. What are some things that you've noticed have gotten in the way of vendors working with you? Like, what are some reasons maybe you'll turn one away other than it's just not interesting? Are there some roadblocks that you see vendors get into that they just can't move forward?
Sometimes it's products that really aren't geared. We're a standalone MLS, and some products are geared really towards the associations, not towards an MLS. Now that works when you have an MLS that runs, or an organization that runs an MLS. That's great with an association, but if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. And if they're too expensive, um, you know, you've got to show your worth.
Yeah.
And especially if it's somebody who's new in the industry and they want to charge, like $2 per member per month because they have this great product, and it's like, it's unproven.
Yeah.
You can't expect that. And it's a lot to expect from the members because that can affect their fees. And you, you don't want to be the reason that their fees have to go up.
Yeah. Especially if they don't use it.
Exactly.
So, would you suggest that startups like my own begin an engagement where maybe it's kind of a more softer rollout where there's a revenue share? If that goes well and you see high adoption and there's interest, then you can start to have those conversations on your more site licenses and cost per members, and maybe baking it into fees. Is there a progression there, or is there not, where maybe a vendor can come straight in and immediately get some kind of site license, especially if they're early stage? Can you walk us through kind of how you think about that?
So site licenses we're not too big on when it comes to it because there is competition. Competition's great. It's great. And it's like if you look at showing services, we're a little different. We offer 3 because our members
Interesting.
want to have choice. They don't want to just have one thing that's kind of rammed down their throats. It's like, no, they want to be able to pick and choose what they use on that. So that gets to be a little bit more difficult. And the site licenses are more the ones that are going to do the member per month cost.
Yeah.
The rest of them you can kind of normally work around to find something to where you can meet in the middle. And it may be that the freemium model and then an upgrade or something may increase in price or decrease in price depending on it. That's something that actually has happened. But we still have great adoption on that product. So it's kind of
Yeah,
where I'm at.
makes sense. You mentioned earlier that some products are better for associations and some are better for MLSs. Can you dig into that more? What makes one better for the other?
Well, I guess the way I should put it is we don't want to step on the state association's toes. So at least for us, like we don't offer forms. Forms are offered through the association. That's part of the dues or fees that they pay their association because they offer them out to everyone. So it's harder for us to kind of break in and go, oh, we're going to offer forms. And then the associations are like, what are you doing? Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
This is
And
our
what makes forms something associations provide and not MLSs? Is that just random or is there something about associations that fit forms?
for at least for me and for us because the associations themselves, I mean, they have forms committees. They go through all of this. They make sure that they have everything. They work with the real estate commissions and all of this. So they sort of have this whole scope of work that they do in order to provide what the realtors need.
Yeah, it's more of a compliance thing on their end, and they're there for licensing and compliance.
Yes, I would definitely go in that route.
Yeah. So walk us through when a new vendor joins now Prime MLS. What does that first several months look like as far as you rolling it out and getting it to your members? Have you guys built a cadence for that, and what does it look like?
Well, once we get the implementation process done, because that can take a while depending on what they want. If it's just like a tile with a link underneath it that goes to their site to where they find out more information, that can be fairly quick,
Yeah,
depending on what's going on at the time. If it's an SSO, that takes a little bit longer because you're working with multiple vendors at that point. Or if it's an SSO into the MLS software, then that creates another layer of difficulty there, or another layer that has to be dealt with. Um, Once it's implemented or getting ready to implement, we bring in our marketing team and training team. And that's when Brianna and her training coordinator, Wendy, get involved. And they're looking at, hey, what do you have for marketing materials? Do you mind if I make a video? We've had one vendor that they were going to send us one over, and Brianna had created a YouTube video, and I sent it over. And the CEO came back going, we want to use this. Can we use this? Because then she's scheduling, pop-ups, the inside of our MLS software. We've got the inside of that page. We promote the partnerships there. We're putting it out in our newsletter. So depending on the product, it can also even scheme into our new member orientation. Because when you think of something even like Simba, and if I remember correctly, and I can get the percentages wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, please, but what was it, 80% of new agents drop off within a year or two? And it seems that part of
about
that
85. Yeah,
is at
about
85.
85% of new agents within the first, I think it's 3 to 5 years will fail.
And how much of that do you think is taking place because they don't understand how to manage the money?
Yeah, yeah,
And so bringing something like your product in to kind of say, hey, this product may help you. You may not want it or you may want it, but this could help you in structuring how you do your business.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's a big part of relationships that we go into with MLSs and associations is, hey, this is a product that if you drop into an agent's hand on day one when they start their business, their level of success and their odds of success go way up. So that makes a ton of sense that there's some products that make more sense to get in front of agents earlier in their career. Um,
I would
yeah,
also I would also say because you have someone on your team that is an agent.
for sure.
So
Yeah,
that you get the understanding from the agent side saying, as you're building and working out your UI to say, okay, that is going to work or that is not going to work. And so you're almost tried and true before you start.
exactly. Yeah, we took a lot of diligence, a very long process of building our product, rolling it out, getting testing before we even put it into the market. And that's important because having a co-founder that is the customer is huge. Let's talk about the future. So what does it look like going forward for the MLS network? I've got some questions here for what does the future look like in the eyes of Sarah Fogg? So, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest holes in the industry and in the MLS technology landscape right now?
I don't know if it's holes so much as technology is evolving so fast. Um, and sometimes it's hard to keep up with in ways because you have new things that are coming on the market and it's like, okay, is that truly going to fill the hole? Or is that just something that's new and bright and shiny and it's
Yeah,
catching your attention? AI is huge. It's not going away. So definitely taking a look at that and watching that from photo compliance to being able to auto-populate features, from a photo. I just think that's fantastic. But then you have things like the Chat GPT, and I'm kind of old school. If I'm selling my home, I don't want an agent putting that in and having a bot spit something out. I want them to put their thoughts and their marketing, their knowledge and their expertise into my remark section on that link. So I get a little kind of uneasy about that one, but then again, hey, the agents are going to do what they're going to want to do as long as it's in the best interest of, their client. That's great.
yeah. I want to dig in a bit more there. The AI on photos and compliance and auto-populating, fields within the MLS for features and things of that nature, a ton of sense. I think that's going to continue to grow. I want to dig in more there. Like, what kind of products are you seeing? It sounds like you've seen some products leveraging ChatGPT that create like a chat bot for consumers prior to speaking to an agent, or what are some maybe examples of how you're seeing it implemented?
No, I would say more that there's agents who could, plug something in and then use the chat beat the
Yep.
prompt in and then use that response and put it like maybe in the public remarks or something.
Okay.
Don't know if that's happening, but I could see that happening very
Yeah.
easily. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility there. I was just kind of curious if you've already seen some early examples of how people are applying it to MLS technology or just agent technology in general.
I haven't seen a whole lot of it yet. I mean, people have played around with it. Sam DeBoard has put down a few from Riso has put down a few different things that he's like plugged in, and all of a sudden it's this huge long
Yeah.
list of things, and it's interesting. The AI portion, at least for me, for the photos and I'm more focused in that area because if it saves the agents time, time is money for them. They're not here to major in MLS. That's our job. They're in to get in, get their job done, get their listing up, and get out and get the next listing and keep everything churning. So I think that companies like Respi, PropTex is up and coming in that realm as well. I think that they're going to do very, very well over the next few years. Respi already is. I mean, it's an industry leader.
Yeah. One thing I've been testing ChatGPT a lot for kind of real estate questions, how does this intersect with realtors' careers and agents' careers and how they engage with consumers? And I've kind of come to the early conclusion that I don't think ChatGPT or AI can replace an agent. I think what is going
Yeah.
to happen is consumers might delay when they speak to an agent because maybe they'll have a conversation with something like ChatGPT to get them educated, to get them primed to then go out to the market and find a realtor to actually make that purchase. I think it's going to be a companion tool more than a replacement. I think that's my take on it.
I think it can be a problem though, because I think when they go out and they do something like that, they need to understand that it's a computer algorithm that's just generating and going and pulling things
Yeah,
in. It doesn't make them an expert in that area. The agent is still the expert. Real estate is still local, and
absolutely.
a machine's not going to do that.
Yeah. And I think it's the responsibility of those that are integrating ChatGPT, Microsoft, Google, anybody that is creating these new AI interfaces to make it clear to consumers, hey, this is a computer. And I think ChatGPT is doing well with that. If you ask it real estate questions, it suggests talking to a professional.
Yeah.
And in our case, we had a customer reach out to us with a pretty complex tax question. I put in the ChatGPT, gave ChatGPT the scenario. ChatGPT came back and said, "Hey, here's my answer, but I suggest talking to a CPA." I took that answer, I sent it to our customer, and I said, "I'm also reaching out to a CPA for confirmation." And the CPA just quickly came back to me and said, "That's 100% right. I agree." And so I double confirmed, but ChatGPT did give us a great long answer that explained it. I just think it's important to confirm because, these are known to what they call hallucinate. So I think that's really important that consumers need to be educated and then take that extra step to speak with a professional to get that expert opinion and close the transaction or get that expert tax advice that, when you put it on your forms for taxes, you're not going to have the IRS knocking at your door later. So I think that's really important. What would you say AI might be the answer? And if it is, we can go to the next question. But what's the biggest trends you're seeing in the space?
Yeah, again, that's going to be AI. AI is king right now. That's what most people are focusing on, seeing what's going on with the photos, being able to do the photo compliance and that type of thing. At least for what I've seen. But RISO is next month, and you never know what's going to come out of that. There's always more.
Yeah,
The only thing consistent is change in the real estate industry. It truly is.
yeah. And what do you expect to be the rollout process of AI? So you mentioned Recipe as an industry leader. How long have they been around? And how long has that rollout been in the industry? And do you expect it to speed up, or do you still think it's going to be similar to what it has been with Recipe?
They've been around for a while. I can't tell you exactly how long. You'd want to talk to Lori on that, but and their integrations are it's almost like Kubicasa. You sit there and see it's like, oh, 5 more MLSs have signed up with Kubicasa for floor plans. And it's like right behind it, it's like, 3 more have signed up with Recipe. And the announcements are just like ongoing. They're just, they know what they're doing. We haven't integrated it yet. I'm interested to see what's going to happen because I know some exciting things are coming, and it's I hate to say it, but it's kind of fun to watch and see what's going to be new, what's going to happen, and watching other people integrate things and being able to call them up and say, hey, how did that go? What's the real deal behind this? And how's your adoption? That type of stuff.
Last question here, what gets you most excited about the future of the MLS network?
Bill's network,
No, just the
or
MLS network in general across the United States. Just the MLS as a whole?
oh wow, that's a hard one. Um, I'm always excited about an MLS. I live and breathe it. And the networking, being able to talk to other MLSs about what they're doing and being able to share peer to peer. Our MLS software vendor has a great, peer to peer network that we go through. When you solve a problem and your vendor may cover 200 customers or over that, and you can talk to a group of people and have them say, hey, we've got this problem. Has anybody solved it? And someone can say, oh, yeah, we did. Here's what we did. Hey, can we have a Zoom call and have a chat about it with, there may be 50 people that jump on the call and you've solved something for 50 people, not just your MLS. And it's a really great, it's a feel good moment to know that you're not just doing something for your own little MLS, but helping others as well. And I've been watching that happen more and more over the past couple of years. And to me, that's great. I love seeing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, I think that's super exciting too. And I think that's what made me so excited about being at RISO was just the feeling of the collaboration, the
Yes,
feeling of, the excitement around new vendors and everybody working together. That's what I think made that so exciting and why I'm looking forward to the next one here in April in San Antonio.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's fun for us because it's like we've all known each other for so long too, and we actually get to see each other, but you only see each other maybe 4 times a year. So it's fun when you get together. Risos always throws a great party. Um, but they always bring in new people, and there's always new people getting engaged. And like last year was new for you, and it was great watching you start to get to develop your network
Yeah.
and seeing that type of thing. I love seeing the new people come in and watching really the camaraderie that starts happening, and it's almost instantaneous as you get to meet people and they want to know more about what you're doing and why did you come up with that, and the more that they engage and the more that they learn, and Riso's been a great place to do that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I'm sure the listeners are going to learn a lot. I know I've learned a lot from you, so I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with everybody.
Well, thanks, Evan. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll see you at the Riso bar here soon.
See you next month.